The Sacramento Kings just had a phenomenal season. Regardless of how their journey ended, this is a feat to celebrate. They took the defending champions to 7 games after kicking their 16-year-long playoff drought to the curb. And even for a 3rd seed, they really had zero expectations because the race was the thrill. Boston, Los Angeles, those 2 cities are spoiled. Even in the Big Apple, despite having no hardware since the 70s, the playoffs are expected, not craved. In Sacramento, their excitement is insatiable. The passion this city shows for this team really proves that basketball is a lifeline for a lot of us. In recent memory, only a couple of teams have had roaring crowds even comparable to Sacramento this season. The 2019 Raptors come to mind. The whole North gave their heart to that squad. And the Lakers, the C's, the Knicks, they'll always have a rocking crowd because they're the standard. Now I can't forget the Oracle, from We Believe to the beginning of the Warriors dynasty. And say what you want about the Chase Center lacking the history that Oracle had, that place gets loud. And that's what's so beautiful about the Warriors versus the Kings. The 2 greatest crowds in the NBA at center stage, going to 7 games with all their stars playing lights out. And we'll be talking about this series and the performance that De'Aaron had throughout the series and the Game 7 masterpiece Stephen Curry had for the rest of our lives. A year ago, this would have sounded like a pipe dream. From bottom dwelling as the 12th seed to the top of the Wild West as a 3rd seed. Who could have predicted that for Sacramento? Kings fans can rejoice as their days of mediocrity seem to be behind them. How does a team with no winning culture, poor draft history, a Rolodex of failed coaching stints pull a U-turn like this? 4 men. 4 men are responsible for a majority of the Sacramento Kings revival. We will start with the man in the shadows, the one behind the scene pulling all the strings. None of this would be a reality without him. He's the architect. The table must be set before anything can happen. The foundation is the first step to building a contender, and Monte McNair laid down that foundation masterfully in a brief 2-year window. From poverty, historical levels of poverty I should say, to a model organization since McNair stepped in the building. So far, he's made no noticeable missteps. Even the ones he was getting berated for were perfect moves in hindsight. The man had a vision that no one else could see, which is why he's the Executive of the Year, an honor reserved for the game's best GMs. His hire was announced October 2020. In November of that year, he drafted current All-Star Tyrese Haliburton at 12th overall. The next year, noticing a hole in the team's defense, he drafted defensive stud Davion Mitchell 9th overall. He followed that up by picking Iowa forward Keegan Murray, a highly criticized draft pick at the time. Keegan Murray finished his rookie campaign by breaking the rookie 3-point record. So McNair is batting 1,000 as far as the NBA draft is concerned. And the man is laying the groundwork in all other ways as well, through strategic free agent signings and crucial trades, the big one I'll get to soon. It all started with this man. Before he came, the Kings were the worst franchise in the league. 2 years later, there's a lot of orgs that would love to be in their position. Coach Mike Brown's name has been in talks for new head coaching hires for quite a while now. He has an extensive resume that has seen him win plenty of hardware across 3 decades. A champion in 2003 with San Antonio under the great Greg Popovich. He'd get his first opportunity to lead a team in 2005 when he became the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, coaching a young LeBron James to a finals trip. He'd win Coach of the Year in 2009. He'd then have a short, dysfunctional stint in LA coaching Dwight Howard after the back injury which ended his years of domination, and an Asian Kobe Bryant and Steve Nash. After being fired in a record 5 games, and there's plenty of evidence that proves Brown's coaching was the least of the Lakers' concern, but honestly, you can do a deep cut into the entire Lakers era of basketball. But I digress. He'd have another short 1-year run with the Cleveland Cavaliers, coaching a 3rd-year Kyrie Irving and a very young and not so talented Cavs team to a losing record. After 2 failed coaching jobs, Mike Brown had to go back to the lab and grind for his next opportunity. And in truth, he did less grinding and more winning. championship winning. He was already familiar with Steve Kerr from their days in San Antonio when Brown was coaching Kerr. So when Kerr got the Warriors job, Brown was brought on as an assistant coach for what would become the Warriors dynasty. And after their mythical finals run last year, it was Brown's turn to man the helm again. And now, with the knowledge of the Golden State Warriors' winning culture and their generation-defining basketball philosophies, he brought it all with him to Sacramento. And people had their doubts, but Coach Brown knew that there was talent lying dormant on this roster, and he knew he was a hell of a coach, the type of coach that could make that talent shine. Running an offense that has a striking resemblance to the Warriors, Mike Brown's coaching created an offensive supernova that played the entire season at a historic rate. The perfect man to lead a young team to glory. For all the Sacramento Kings have gained from their hires, to truly be great, risks and sacrifices must be taken, and no sacrifice was greater than trading a promising young guard who loved your organization to acquire an established star. I'm speaking of Tyrese Haliburton, of course. The all-star guard was an enormous Sacramento guy. He genuinely loved playing there, and his loyalty showed, and that's a rarity amongst young players anywhere, but especially in Sacramento. So stabbing him in the back was a heinous act. The betrayal had people everywhere mudslinging at the Kings, not just because of the heartless nature of the trade, but giving up a bright young star and one of the best shooters of the last decade for Sabonis felt lopsided, and at the time there were some people who genuinely believed Sacramento should have built around Haliburton over Fox. The Kings had traded the wrong guard, and I know this is how folks felt, because that's how I felt. The trade felt like such a Kings thing to do, trading for a perennial all-star by giving away a likable guy who had the potential to be a superstar. But I'll admit it, I was wrong. This is one of the most equal win-win trades in recent history. Indiana got a bona fide stud in Haliburton, who made the all-star team in his first year as the lead act, and Sacramento received a multi-time all-star who was the perfect big man to pair with their superstar. And Sabonis was god-awful against the Warriors, and I believe if he had played to the standards that he usually does in a regular season, the Kings would have won. But one playoff series doesn't make a player invalid of all their other accomplishments. And individually, Tyrese Haliburton is the better basketball player, but Domantas Sabonis fits the team better. Not to mention, dumping Buddy Hield's contract gave the Kings the freedom to pursue Malik Monk on the free market. But you can bring in all these pieces to cover the board, make all the sacrifices you want. None of it will matter if you don't have a superstar. And De'Aaron Fox is a superstar. And as Mark Jones so eloquently put it, he's a quasar. Quasars are a subclass of active galactic nuclei, extremely low. So they're really bright and they have a lot of gravity, I think. Well, that sounds like the perfect description of De'Aaron Fox's game, but if that's too complex, this guy is a dog and he's a bucket. Fox is one of the most lethal closers in the association. Excelling in the clutch, flipping that switch during crunch time, the king of the fourth quarter, that's what you call a closer. The list of the greatest closers ever includes names such as Kobe Bryant, Damian Lillard, arguably the most clutchest basketball player ever, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Paul Pierce, Joe Johnson. There's a few names I didn't mention, but not that many, because the club is pretty exclusive. Even some of the game's greatest can't get in, and that's because it takes a different kind of animal to close a game. When the pressure is mounting, there's somebody who can be relied on night in and night out to block out the noise and not only hoop, but elevate their play. Being clutch is not easy. Not unless you're one of the aforementioned or De'Aaron Fox, the inaugural Clutch Player of the Year, the #1 scorer in the clutch this season, which is last 5 minutes where a team is leading or trailing by 5 points or less, and the #2 scorer in total fourth quarter points. And I might add, he's only 4 points behind Kyrie at that department. With the kind of season he's had, the trophy was his by the All-Star break. The architect, the master, the sacrifice, the closer. These are the 4 men responsible for the revival of the Sacramento Kings. But you don't succeed in the game with only 4 people. I mean, you aren't winning at all if you have 4 guys on the court. So we can't forget the rest of the front office and the coaching staff, along with the players who contributed. This team isn't what it is without De'Aaron Fox's co-star Domas, or his running mate, 6th Man of the Year candidate Malik Monk, the Iron Man vet Harrison Barnes, the rookie sniper Keegan Murray, Mr. Off-Night Davion Mitchell, Red Velvet Kevin Huerter, and the others. This is the purest offense in the league, and everyone played a contribution. Their revival was meant to be because a king doesn't kneel and dust his head in ash. A king is the one above all, and soon the Kings might just be that. Thanks for watching.